What's the most notable thing in here? This is the official change list they put up on Twitch. 1.5 speed. Added 1.5 match speed during highlights and 4 times match speed between highlights. They also added customization of attribute colors. I think very clearly they were like, oops. Oopsily poopsily. I hate that I said that. Somebody give me an ice pick lobotomy. Numerous tile and card polish. Numerous text overlaps and misalignment fixes. Numerous string translation fixes. Okay, they also added further fixes to match freezing at the start of the second half in single-player career. Yeah, but if you're in a multiplayer career, I guess you're just screwed. Added a preference to turn off, alter the speed of UI transitions between screens. So that they basically looked at the stuff that had to do with the UI speed, so you can turn up the UI speed if you want. I can tell you exactly how this went down. So originally the UI speed was slowed down. It was slowed down intentionally because it takes a little while for the pages to load. Clearly takes like too long for the pages to load. But now, and somebody was like, well, wouldn't you rather have it take a second for it to load and the page be there instead of you instantly go there and have to kind of like watch the page load? So now they've given you a choice between those two things. That was the choice they made in the game development, and now they've just basically given that choice to you. Again, where are we dropping? Oh, we'll find out soon. We're just looking at this patch list first, because this is basically the main game update. Manually scouting a player will now correctly delegate an appropriate scout. Nice. New gen portraits appear during match broadcast graphics, fixed issue preventing subs processing that were made at halftime. Did they not? I don't remember that being a problem. Fixed issue where white match ball could be used in snowy weather. Set piece attributes are now visible when setting set piece and penalty takers. I like how that wasn't in the base game. How is that not in the base game, bro? That you can see the set piece attributes when you're setting penalty, like set piece and penalty takers? How? Tactic familiarity will now correctly progress over time. Dude, what was the game that they released? What was the game that they released that didn't have tactical familiarity correct? Oh, come on. Fixed issue causing World Golden Ball Award to be skewed towards South American players. Was that real? That's crazy. How does that even happen in the game code that the award is like... How does that even happen in the game code? New update's really great. Jules, I know it's a big one, and I know there are some people that have said basically they removed their negative review after this update. Fixed issue... Oh, yeah, the World Golden Ball thing. Text scaling preference option will now be saved after exiting the game. It's hilarious that that was not in the game before. Fixed issue preventing users from closing fixture and results pop-up post-match. Thank you, dude. Oh, that was driving me nuts. That was driving me crazy. Fixed issue causing player database to return incorrect results if users switched between interest levels. Fixed issue forcing user to holiday past end of season team meeting. That's rough. Staff responsibilities have been made more accessible and easier to locate. I mean, I actually like the staff responsibility screen that they had. The correct pronouns will be used in the Ask Agent About availability screen.
Hope you enjoyed the
They just hadn't thought about that. Guarantee you they just hadn't thought about that. Career stats will no longer display. I mean, literally, every time somebody hears the word pronouns, there's always that one person that's like, woke! It's literally just, they've added women to the game, and I guarantee you that it would just say, like, what's his availability? They just hadn't fixed that. So they went and fixed it. Fixed issue preventing users to progress through the UCL squad registration despite current number of homegrown players included. Or correct. Career stats will no longer display goalkeeper columns for outfield players. Selecting any carousel option besides the first on the club staff now takes you to the correct view. Okay. Mental attributes will now display correctly when you set within the staff database tool. Okay. Fixed issue where there's no way to tell which clubs are promoted, relegated via the season preview.
Already?
I mean, this is like a beta update, dude. I mean, I guess it's just some of these are pretty simple playtest fixes. This sort of patch in them like listing out all of the issues that they come across in the game really highlights how little the game had been playtested, I think. Back navigational direction arrow shortcut now functional across cards and tools. Overall start and until dates within club finances debt loans will no longer display as 1900. Fixed issue where squad numbers would be missing if making a single substitution. You can now select none as an option for individual training. You could not select none before. You now remove previously said individual training focus, which is impossible. Career managerial vacancies will now display both men's and women's teams. There you go. Fixed issue where a player would reject the own asking price that they themselves had set. That's such a funny bug, dude. That's such a goofy bug. Can you imagine that happening to you? Fixed issue preventing user from continuing if loanee was injured on international duty. Manager creation accessories now correctly reflect color changes. Fixed wrinkles slider not applying. Manager attire choices will now save correctly. It is a huge patch. Fixed issues where a remove button was not displayed in the squad planner. Fixed issue being able to sell installments within clauses tool. Oh, you couldn't do that before? I mean, I tried. I just assumed they weren't interested. User can now only mortgage transfer installments from the point they took over, not for real-world transfers that occurred pre-game date. Club header and welcome pack will now display the correct information. Refined 2025 squad registration for the NWSL. Exit talks button now functions correctly in contract negotiations. Spacebar can now be used to interrupt holiday and processing. That's cool. Winners will now be displayed in the competitions card. Good idea. Opposition team will now be highlighted in the Europa Conference League pre-match league tables. Cool. Reworked match momentum graph to better show teams with dark coloring. That needed help. Users now always taken back to portal after using instant result for a friendly match. Nice. Red card icon will now correctly display for each respective team within the score bar of men's Champions League matches. Okay. Fix spacing of the aggregate score with the score bar of men's Champions League matches. Spacebar can be used to interrupt holiday and processing. I read that already. You can now use find players similar to within the database and it won't filter out correct results. It was filtering out correct results before? The scouting fitness message headline will now display the name of the player. Nice. Intermediary suggestion headline will now display the name of the player. Both of those are nice. Fixed issue causing the attributes graph within progress report not to display graph lines. Add a leave button to continue panel so spectators of an online match can leave during halftime. Fixed inconsistency of teams being selected by default via quick start. Fixed non-EU rule in Serie A that was preventing certain players being registered in-game despite being registered in real life. That might be the funniest bug. That the registration in Serie A was so broken that there were players registered in real life and you would just go and you couldn't register all of them. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. If you take a player on trial, it shows them as being at your club since 1900. Unmanageable divisions will no longer display within advanced game setup. Improved in-game tooltips. Tooltip has been re-added to the first team form. Changed the color styling on first team position selectors to ensure the position selectors reflect the team selection correctly. Fixed issue preventing medical center season summary table from loading despite having injured players. I mean, here's the thing. I know that Football Manager always has bugs, that games always have bugs, right? But I think some of these bugs would have been so obvious. Like, I just think, based off when the beta came out, the fact that they didn't get the builds in time to be able to push out a big update on all of their platforms for the main game when that came out. I think it all points to, it's all evidence of the fact, right? That they were sprinting this in. They were sprinting this in. They like barely got this in under the wire. You know what I mean? They barely got this in under the wire. And I mean, they technically didn't get it in under the wire because the main release of the game didn't have a big release update. But I know they couldn't have canceled the game again. I'm just surprised at how rushed they were with the whole extra year. Like I am surprised after it took 2 years that they were rushing as much as they were. Because you can just tell they were rushing. That they sprinted this in. FM25 is really bad. I mean, they've said publicly all over the place that they have changed what FM25 was going to be significantly. So did they actually spend all 2 years building the exact same game that we ended up having now? No. They didn't. Obviously, they didn't. Now, overall, this patch is great. I think this patch is also further evidence in terms of the stuff that they're still fixing, right? They have not really been able to trying to go, okay, how are we going to make the training screen better? How are we going to, right? They have not been able to finish the game, as I would say, because they've been very, very busy solving, like putting out fires. You can't build a new house if the whole time, you can't build that new pool house you need to build in order to make the game what it should be if you're just constantly making sure that the actual house isn't on fire, right? And that's what they're trying. That's what they're trying to do, is make sure that the house doesn't burn down, right? That they're just putting out all of these fires that are popping up so that you can at least play the game without it being broken or crashing all the time. Substantial crash and stability fixes. They broke out the word substantial. I mean, SI didn't try to build a game from scratch in 2 years because they've been working on this since before the pandemic. I believe he announced it was Project Dragonfly in one of the interviews. Substantial's the new bespoke. Yeah, they've actually been working on the game since 1900. I don't know if you guys noticed, they've been working on the game since 1900. So, very, very exciting times. Now, I mean, okay, here's the thing. Final take on this. I'm really happy they got this. I'm really happy they got this out quickly because they needed to. The best thing they could have done after missing the deadline that they set for themselves for when the game was going to be released was very quickly get a big update out that makes the game imminently more playable. And that is what they have done. They have gotten this update out. We will obviously play it today, and we will see how much more playable it feels. But they have taken a step in the right direction by releasing this sort of update. They put out some of the fires that are in the house. I don't think they put out all the fires that are in the house. We will see. I don't want to make that claim without playing it. I'm sure there are still some things that are going to be crashing the game because it just feels like they haven't tested the game enough. But if FM26 is going to be a beta year, this is how it's going to have to be. You're just going to have to go through, put out a lot of fires, and build a good one-story house before you start turning it into a mansion.